at Moreno Valley College. At Voices of Sankofa, we lift up stories and leadership, resistance and hope, honoring the past while building a more just future. Through honest conversations, we explore the power of education, community, and activism to drive change. We're your hosts, Lindo.
I'm Caleb. I use he, they, it pronouns.
I'm Shuvon, they, them pronouns.
I am Tyanna, she or shero.
And today we're honored to be joined by
Dr. FeRita Carter. I use the pronouns she, her, hers, diva, or queen.
Okay, I love them all.
I love that. And she is the Interim President at Moreno Valley College. We'll be talking about leadership, the importance of student voice, community building, and what gives us hope for the future. Sorry about that. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Carter. Let's dive in.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much. I really know it means a lot to me that you are here, so I would just want to give my own little appreciation. So I'll dive in with the questions.
Okay.
What drew you to become an administrator of a community college, and what keeps you passionate about the work?
I would say what drew me was the Lord. I'm on a divine assignment, and I say that because I was unemployed prior to coming here because I lost my job because they switched out administrations. And so working at an at-will state, that means that without cause, somebody can say, this is your last day. So I remember applying for jobs, and I said to the Lord, I'm not going to be one of these people to apply for thousands of jobs. I only need one. And so I remember the day that I filled out the application. I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to spend all day filling out an application. Find me something. He found me something. I applied for the Vice President for Student Services job at Riverside City College, filled out the application, hit send, and chuckled. And I said, I'm not going to California, and California is not going to call me. And fast forward, I'm in California, and it's 9 years later. So that is why I say that I'm on divine assignment. I started as a vice president and have moved to be an interim president at 2 colleges in the Riverside Community College District.
Wow,
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. If you don't mind me asking, because you did say you came to California.
Yes.
Where did you come from?
I moved here from Raleigh, North Carolina. So my entire work experience has been in the true South. And I call it the dirty South. And I say that I'm also always supposed to be in the South. That's why I'm in Southern California. The Southern girl is here to stay.
We love
Yes,
that.
it is. Thank you.
And just to be precise, is that where you were born and raised?
I was born and raised in Alabama.
Oh, nice.
So I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, and spent my formative years in Covington County in
nice.
Opp and Andalusia, Alabama.
Ooh, we love a South girl.
What is your second part of your question? Could you repeat that for me?
Yes, it was.
What inspires me?
What keeps you passionate
What
about
keeps
the
me-
work?
Being with students, being with dynamic faculty who are trying to make positive change in the life of our students, being with classified professionals and administrators whose passion is to see student success, but ultimately the students.
Wow, that's
Just
amazing.
getting to meet someone as dynamic as you. I've met you before, and I
Yes.
look forward to a deeper connection with the two of you all. But this is why I get up. And as I say, drive 45 minutes in traffic each and every day,
To
going and coming. 45 minutes, it doesn't matter what time I leave. Going and coming is 45 minutes.
Wow.
But it's worth it because
Yes.
I get to be around fabulous people like you.
Yes, we
Yes.
love that.
All right. Now, speaking of the students, can you share a little bit of what your educational background was?
I can. I earned an industrial and systems engineering degree, my undergraduate degree from Georgia Institute of Technology, also known as Georgia Tech. I have my master's degree in public administration from Auburn University, the Montgomery branch campus, and I earned my PhD in public policy and administration from Mississippi State University.
Ooh, public policy. I have heard about the other two. I don't know much about that one.
public policy is more tied to government into bureaucracy, and then it also ties into policy. So you hear about legislation and law, all of that ties together.
Oh, that's interesting. I love that. We had like a law class in high school for us, and like so I'm like since high school, since actually that was what year was that? Freshman? No, sophomore year. Since sophomore year, I've been interested in like I've been taught all the like legislation stuff. So that's interesting.
Very interesting, and you keep saying law. Law used to be one of the directions I wanted my life to go in.
Yeah.
But I now watch enough law programs on TV that I consider myself a couch Matlock, and I can solve the majority of the television shows before it ends. So
that's amazing.
I feel that I have accomplished that.
That's amazing.
To piggyback off of educational experiences, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome being in the spaces that you're in with the demographic maybe, or anything that has to do with that?
The answer to that is no. In fact, I had never heard of imposter syndrome until 2 or 3 years ago. I grew up knowing who I was and whose I was before I even understood that the Lord had me all the time. But I grew up as FeRita Carter. My parents knew who I was, and they raised me to be an independent, fierce African American woman, and that is who I am. So I do not step anywhere being an imposter. I step everywhere I go knowing who I am.
Do you think that has to do especially with the people you were surrounded by, like you said, your parents, or maybe your area?
I would say yes, definitely. Growing up in the South at the beginning of the civil rights movement in the civil rights era, I would say did govern some of that. My parents protected my sister and I from that, and it probably didn't dawn on me until maybe 20 plus years later that I understood why we would go to Chicago or New York with our car packed. We only stop certain places to get gas, and it's not like it is today where you can go 2 minutes and there's an exit, 2 more minutes there's another exit, and everywhere fast food, etc. That didn't happen there during that time. And I don't want to date myself per se, but I am 57, so we know when the civil rights era started in mid-60s. I was born in 67, so like I said, right there on the beginning. But we would literally have our food packed in the car, never missed a beat, did not per se go to any and every restroom or store. And I found out about the Green Book, like I said, after the fact, where there were specific areas where African Americans could safely go to get gas or safely go to buy food, those type things. But I was shielded from that as a young child. But I would say that how I grew up, it was probably during the era where using the N word was more commonplace. But because my parents were accepted in the white community as well as in the black community, my sister and I could go anywhere we wanted to go. We would go to small, and you had to think rural Alabama, and we would go to I guess you would call them, they don't have them here, I wouldn't say, but it would be more of like a mom and pop type, all inclusive type store where you could get your groceries, your whatever you would need. We would go behind the counter to get our own candy because they knew our parents. So I grew up kind of being comfortable and spoiled and isolated, but I was also called an Oreo because I could talk and I could communicate, and I had to be like, what is an Oreo? And my peers had no problem saying black on the outside, white on the inside, but I didn't let that hinder me. I let that motivate me, because once again, I'm not going to change me to make somebody feel good about themselves.
Right. And kind of to add to that, do you think that you would be able to understand somebody else's experience, maybe with say students here having imposter syndrome, because you personally didn't experience it?
Yes, I have the ability to be apathetic or empathetic, whichever one I choose to be. But I choose to embrace other people's lived experiences, because I tell people everybody has their own unique lived experience. So things that I have not personally experienced. For example, the LGBTQ community. I have friends that are loud and proud members of the community, and I sit with them in a safe space to learn more about that, so that I can, feel what they're feeling. I have never been homeless, but I've talked to people who have been homeless. I've never been part of the foster care system, but I've talked to people. I've never been incarcerated, but I know people who have been, and my father used to teach prisoners. He actually worked at a trade school, their version of what we would consider community college now, and taught brick masonry. So I've been exposed to a lot of different people who do not have the same background as me, and I think that makes me a better person, because I'm able to appreciate people for who they are.
It definitely does.
Right. Can I ask a question? Because you did say you were sheltered and you were shielded from what was going on in your times at that time. But what does your parents do? Because you said they were accepted in the white community.
Well, both of them now are angels officially, but it's all good.
God bless you.
My mother was an 8th grade math teacher, and my father, as I mentioned, taught brick masonry, and he also was a brick mason on the side. So my father actually went back and earned his high school degree after we were born, and went back to get his credentials. He had the highest rank credentials that he could get to be able to teach brick masonry to people. So he did that, and my mother had a master's degree. So education is part of my DNA.
For sure, it is. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have a question, because you said that you didn't really notice you were kind of sheltered and like protected. What do you think was the moment you realized that things are not all right? Like,
what is your definition of not all right?
Like, I've been in my ethnicities class, we watched a video of White Like Me, where white people with white privilege were sharing their experience of realizing that they had white privilege. And they learned that by kind of seeing what other non-white people, like POC people, were dealing with, and they realized that something was not right.
I think a better way to maybe word that question, or what you're trying to say, is, when did you realize that your African American experience wasn't the same as many others?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're saying, how did I realize that? I guess I've probably known it from the existence of time, if that makes sense. I grew up in a middle class family. I tell people I'm gonna die in a middle class family.
Right.
That's just the standard of living that I am accustomed to. But growing up, I didn't know anybody's economic status versus anybody else's economic status. Growing up in Alabama, you basically was either African American or you were white. After I got older, and I would almost probably say in college, is where I started seeing a more diverse group of people. And part of that was because of the engineering focus at Georgia Tech at that time. The world has changed in the 57 years that I have lived, and it is so much more diverse. And unfortunately and sadly, I say we're using the diverseness to keep each other segregated versus using the diverseness to unify. Right. If that makes sense.
It does.
And so that kind of breaks my heart and grieves me, because we feel that in 2025 we quote unquote still need safe spaces.
Yeah.
Versus accepting people as people.
Right.
Yeah.
And understanding that love overcomes hate. And if we could just love everybody or appreciate everybody, or at the very least, at the end of the day, respect everybody, we would just be a better place.
Most
Agreed.
definitely.
Yeah.
That kind of goes into the next question.
Did you have a question, Professor Jiles? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. No. Go on.
I was
Yes.
saying that it goes into the next question. That's
Oh, okay. My question is actually more about leadership in students. You
Okay.
know, looking at your educational background and the degrees you've earned, and you know, overall who you are as a person. Like, how has that shaped you into venturing into like helping more students? And what are some ways you help make sure students feel heard, understood, and truly supported? You know.
Well, what I do, I use the platform that I have as a leader to listen to what students are saying. And then going back and talking to managers, faculty, different governance committees to share the student's experience, if that makes sense. I also make it a point to be involved with students. The associated students of Moreno Valley College are like the most dynamic students that I have ever been around. As I mentioned, I know several of you in this room, in part out of ASNVC leadership, but also different clubs, different tabling events, etc. So just to listen to students, for me, I'm also Southern hospitality. I'm a hugger. So if I see somebody that I feel like may need a hug, I ask first before I just start snatching folk. But you know, can I get a hug? Do you mind me having a hug? Or I just sit and start talking to students, or if they invite me over into their space, then I'm going to go to their space. Now, I'm an extroverted introvert. Most people think like, oh, I'm always on, but I prefer to be quiet. And I prefer to be private, and I prefer to be by myself. But I dig deep and always try to be upbeat and bubbly because I want students to feel welcomed. I want them to know that they're the reason I'm here every day. If we did not have students, I can guarantee not one faculty would be needed, not one manager, not one administrator, not one classified professional. So, you know, I just try to listen to what the students are saying and trying to make their experience a better experience each and every day.
Yes, I could see that. Thank you so much. That's a really great answer, because I'm a student as well, and you know, whenever I see you around on campus, I'm like, hey, Dr. Carter, you know, and we have a little conversation. So that alone really enlights a spark in me, because I could really be having a bad day, and then when I run into you, you just give me that feeling that, hey, I got
For sure, every time.
Thank you. Yeah. So we love that about you. So yeah.
And you saying kind words to people, engaging with the students, I know that goes a long way. Last time I was at the podcast you were being interviewed for, you said a really nice quote that stuck in my head, that I used it for my Black Student Union Club. You said that we all have endless opportunities, and if there isn't one, then create it. And I'm very moved and touched by poems and quotes and stuff, because I am a poet at heart. So I'm gonna lead into the next question.
Okay, and I'm a poet at heart as well.
And I get that vibe from you. So the next question is there a quote or saying you really love, and why does it speak to you?
There are several. I heard somebody say it when you all were setting up, the teamwork makes the dream work.
It was me.
Another one of my sayings that I love is this too shall pass. And I like the dream work makes the team work, because the more people that are involved, and that means that's that many more people trying to make positive changes,
love that.
or working together to figure out what will work the best for the most,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
The this too shall pass inspires me, because I know that it doesn't have to always be like this. Now, one of my things that helps me get through my day which I hate to have to say it, but I say it, and it's common sense is not so common.
Ooh, I've been using it too
Just
much.
to help me, and I keep telling folk, I'm going to put it on a T-shirt and just give the T-shirts away.
Please.
I that works for me because I have to realize that everybody does not think the way that I think.
Mm-hmm.
It is unfortunate for them. I'm
Right.
just kidding. But that helps me also dig deep to accept people where they are,
Right.
and understand that though it may not be the way I would do it or the way I would want it done, it
Right.
doesn't mean that it won't get the work done or the
Right.
job done. So that's one of those things for me when I do my own self-reflection. And then I live by the scripture, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding, in all their ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. And it took my growth in my faith walk and my faith journey to understand that and dissect that scripture. And I've done many Bible studies where we have literally dissected scriptures. And so just for you all to understand me better, what you see is a work in progress, and I thank God that he is the one that's leading the change. And so whereas I am still a work in progress, I try to not do any harm. I try to be mindful of what I say, and if I see that it may have caused somebody to flinch or make them feel some kind of way, we'll say that, my spirit is immediately convicted, and I go and I make amends, whether they received it the way I wanted it to be received or not. That goes back to the love piece, the kindness piece, the respect and acceptance piece, because the only change that I can make is me. And so I always want to make a positive change, and that's working on me daily. So I'm gonna just say this to you all: if you don't sit with yourself, start sitting with yourself.
Please do.
And yourself will tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
Right. I definitely agree with that. That's something that you will learn in therapy as well. It's like you need to take that time to maybe talk to yourself. Like, people think it's a little wild, but it's important because realistically you have all the answers that you need, because you're the person that knows how you feel.
Very well spoken.
Yes.
Thank you.
And something about what you said about doing something and realizing that it made someone else feel bad, that is something that I am constantly telling all the people around me, of just the fact that you are going to hurt people, because that is a fact of life. It's going to happen. But what's very, very important is knowing what to do after that.
Right.
Yes. And to not intentionally
Exactly.
hurt people. Is one thing to hurt someone unintentionally, but to go out and do it intentionally, which unfortunately we see a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we don't want.
Yeah, I've seen so many people like be super defensive and denial over doing something wrong, and that just kind of make things worse.
Yes.
Because at that point, it's just like like I'm dealing with this a lot with my parents specifically. Like people really think that if we're pointing out something wrong, it is an accusation and like attacking their personhood.
Right.
Well, in reality, it's just like, I'm telling you because I want you to be better.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like she said something that was very powerful, which is self-reflection. It goes back to, are you sitting with yourself and seeing, is there any truth to what that person is saying? And sometimes people are in denial with themselves, and that's totally fine. But
Yeah.
the biggest thing in this season for myself is self-reflection.
Yeah.
Getting comfortable with the uncomfortableness of not everything about me is perfect. And I want to be the change I want to see in this life.
People in this society are so afraid of being uncomfortable that it's just, there's no room for growth because of it.
I'm gonna just say, and I agree with exactly what you just said, but I think part of not wanting to be uncomfortable is because they don't want to be judged or shamed.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been in places where they'll say it's a safe space, but it's probably better to say it's a courageous space, because spaces aren't necessarily safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because to me, if it's a safe space, then it's a confidential space. And it's a whatever we say, stay in that space. And we're human. And we know that that's not going to happen.
Right.
So I encourage people, I want everyone to feel safe, but I want them to more so feel that they can express themselves openly and honestly,
Yes.
if that makes sense.
With that being said, that kind of goes to this question a bit. It says, with everything happening in the world right now, how are you specifically working to make MVC a safe and welcoming place for all students, especially those who are among the most vulnerable, including racially marginalized students, LGBTQIA plus students, immigrant students, disabled students, and unhoused students?
So to answer that question, I can say I show up to work every day trying to show up and show out for everybody you named. Because A, we're a HSI, which is a Hispanic Serving Institution. That would fall under your category of marginalized. We have African American students here. That falls under marginalized. We have LGBTQ. We have differently abled. We have homeless or housing insecure. So all of our students fall under that category. So I work for students, regardless of what category we put people in. At the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, my work is to support the success of all of our students.
Okay.
And how do I do that? I try to encourage students. I try to motivate students. I try to encourage our faculty classified managers to figure out what we're doing to fail our students and for us to work together so that we can make those changes. Because, as I said before, without our students, you wouldn't need any of us.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a job, basically.
I would not. Exactly.
Going back to that question too, you spoke about like how all students fall under one criteria. So how can students be part of the decision-making process when it comes to things that really impact their lives at MVC?
Students need to be actively involved and actively engaged. Associated Students of Moreno Valley College is one way to be part of the decision-making process. Being a student representative in any of our governing committees or councils, their voices are automatically heard. Stopping someone and sharing your experience, filling out the surveys that go out, filling out information on your faculty helps change things.
Yes.
And yeah, with you saying sharing about your experiences,
Yes.
when you're sent a survey, we have maybe a 10-15% return of people responding to a survey.
Yeah.
For the 85% of the students who did not respond, your voice is not being heard, if that makes sense.
Yes.
For you to not take a leadership role, that means that your voice, I don't want to say it's being wasted, but you're not showcasing your voice.
Yes.
Making sure everybody knows about this dynamic club and getting more people involved with your club. That's a way that you're not using
not
your
there.
voice.
Yes.
So there are a lot of opportunities now. Unfortunately, a lot of people feel that you need to quote unquote be an elected leader or you got to be the president of the club. That's
true.
not the
Yeah.
case.
Not at all.
Everybody is somebody and everybody has a voice.
That's true.
When you see me, do you not share what you want to share?
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody should feel that way.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I'm on the 3rd floor of the SAS building. Nobody has come to visit me.
I'm gonna change that
Not
tomorrow.
Even
Yes.
this one who
I didn't know where that office was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me
my
the room door. I'll be there tomorrow.
My door 307. My door
307.
is open every day. Now I might give you a side eye if I'm in the middle of doing something, but you're more than welcome to pop in to say hi. You're more than welcome to email me. My phone number is listed. All of my contact information is out there.
Yes.
And I would almost like to say on behalf of everybody who is employed at the college, they feel the same way about students. So going back to your voice being heard, if we don't open our mouths and speak or use our fingers to speak, you're not going to be heard.
That's true. That's true.
Something
Yes,
I grew
absolutely.
up hearing, my bad, is like closed mouths don't get fed, and I definitely,
And you know I wanted to say it, but I just was
I'm sorry,
tagging you
sorry.
in
It
to
was,
do that
it was
because I wanted
itching.
to
I was
say
itching.
that.
I'm like, I know a better saying.
Go ahead.
No, that wasn't.
Oh,
yeah.
I wanted to
I was like,
say
it needs to be
but
said.
I was like, they may not be in the right age group to understand that.
We
So,
are-
yes, thank you
Closed
for
mouth.
sharing that. Yes,
Yeah,
closed
closed
mouths
mouths
do
don't
not
get
get fed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you don't share your story, nobody will know your story.
Yes.
If you don't share what's going wrong, no one will be able to fix it because no one knows it's going wrong.
Yes,
Right.
that is so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Especially just like personal stuff. I've been learning recently that I have to create space for myself to be heard. And what I mean by that is like, instead of just assuming that people don't want to hear what I have to say, that's not giving them the opportunity to listen.
Right.
And that's something that happens a lot though,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
That's
true.
one of your protective mechanisms.
Right.
But I think
She's
that's
like, hold on, because you diving into something deep
And
right
I
here.
just met you, but
yeah.
that's your protective mechanism.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I have been blessed with is discernment. I can sit around people and I'm not an observer. You know how some people like to people watch,
Yeah.
but I can just be around people and I could
Catch
tell you
up
about
on-
yourself.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I could tell you stuff about yourself that you
Probably
may
don't
not
even
know
know.
about yourself or want to accept about yourself. So that's why I say I sit with me
Yeah. Yeah.
daily. Daily.
Yeah.
Because I know I can always do better. Even on my best days, I can do better.
I love that.
Yeah. That's true.
I so want to know what you think of me. Honestly, now that you said that.
Cut, Mike.
She started psychoanalyzing everybody.
Just kidding. I would have to be
Yeah.
around you a little bit more
Yeah.
and for me to get to know you.
Yeah.
So like I don't know you yet, but I look forward to getting to know you.
Yes,
Well,
that's
for
wonderful.
what I have seen thus far, absolutely marvelous.
Yay, we
And
love
also,
that.
I want to say, you said you're not an observer, right? But I want to disagree with that statement because I have that same thing where I can like tell people stuff about themselves, but you get that from observing people. So you have to be.
Well, when I say I'm not an observer, some people are people watchers.
And I'm
Yeah.
one
They
of them.
just sit
Yeah.
and they look at people and they look at.
Yeah.
I'm looking at everything.
and they
not
don't
me.
say anything.
Yeah.
is what
Yeah,
you
they're
mean?
just watching people. Like my sister will do it. She'll go to the airport and just sit and watch people or whatever. That's not me.
I'm not doing
I
that.
don't
I'm not
need
doing
to
that.
entertain me.
Yeah.
I would like to read
Yeah.
without people disturbing me.
Right.
Can I have my little space? So I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I disagree just because you shared a piece of information about yourself and she got that observation off of what you shared with her.
Yeah.
And that's why she wasn't able to give Caleb a critique or even just an observation because she's not an observer.
But I could give you a critique, but I'm not going to give you your critique on air.
I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect
that. What I would want to say to you, the people in the listening audience may not need to be so empowered to know.
But
They don't need to.
So you clock me, but not
keep marvelness,
Yes.
magnificent, mighty
Yes.
in your mind.
You got to.
And I'm going to say this to you and all of you. Don't limit
Yes.
who you are or what you can be by just conceiving what's in your mind. And I'm going to also say this because this has helped get me to where I am. Surround yourself with people who are going to speak life into your life. People were calling me Dr. Carter before I even thought about going back to get my doctorate degree.
I love that.
Yeah.
People were calling me President Carter long before I was even a vice president. So don't surround yourself with haters. You've heard me say it. Haters are gonna hate.
Yes.
And if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right. But use your haters to motivate you. Use people who are negative or who try to put you down. Use that as your stepping stone. Because a lot of times people say stuff to bring you down to make themselves feel better.
Yes.
And you probably heard the saying, hurt people.
Hurt people.
Hurt people.
Yes.
And I will say this from my perspective. My circle of friends, the older I get, the smaller it gets. Because everybody is not worthy to be in my space. And I don't feel bad about it. Some people, and I'm going to just put it out because unfortunately, and fortunate for you, you are in the social media era. And if you don't have so many likes and so many this, that, and the others, I'm not that girl. I'm old school Facebook. I still have my Facebook page. But what I always tell people, I look at Facebook maybe once a month or whatever, because nobody puts anything that's not positive out on Facebook. And the people to me who post the most is hurting the most.
For sure.
Or dealing with stuff, but they're masking it with all of this wonderfulness.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you just think back to people who are actors or actresses, they have the best relationship
Or so it seems.
until they don't.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm going to leave it right there. Do we have any other questions?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, what advice would you give to a student who dreams of one day becoming a college or university president? And I want to change that a little bit. Just staff in general.
What advice would I give? Make sure that you have the credentials.
Of course. Of course.
For sure.
Okay, well,
Good job, bro.
that is advice number one. You have to meet minimum quals to even be considered for a job.
For sure.
I would also say do what you love doing. Some people get caught up on money, and some people get caught up on titles or positions. You need to do what you're comfortable doing and don't necessarily look for the next. I think that has been one of the blessings for me. I always, when I applied for a job, that's the job I was planning on being in. Somebody saw something in me that encouraged me to go to the next level. So I can't say I was sitting thinking, oh, I would be an interim president. And being an interim president was never one of my desires. But then after I have done it twice, then it's like, okay, yeah, you can do that. But do you want to do that? So that's the kind of position you want to get in, where you decide what you want to do. And if it's not what you want to do, then don't do it.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
back to answer your question, I will say in regards to education, you need to have the degrees before you need to have the degrees.
Mm-hmm.
If that so I say that to say, if applying for the presidency said doctorate required and all I had was my master's, guess what? I already eliminated myself.
That part.
Mm-hmm.
If it said 5 years of teaching experience and I never taught, I've already eliminated myself. So that's what I mean by making sure you have your credentials in order. So if you aspire to work in higher education, depending on what you are trying to do, I would suggest you minimally get a master's degree. Minimally.
Minimum. That's the bare minimum.
Even if the job only requires a bachelor's, guess what your master's degree does? Technically could bump you up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they may say bachelor's required, master's preferred.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And then one other thing I want to say, a lot of times people with work experience feel that you have to have a paid work experience. Work experience is work experience. When you're interviewing, and think about it, if you've ever interviewed, how many people say, did you get paid to do that?
None of them.
No, you put it on you put what you did on your resume. And so if you aspire to do something in higher education, maybe ask somebody, can you shadow them one day?
Yes.
That one day may wake you up and be like, I don't want to do that. You know, I love children. But I love to also be able to give them back after about 15, 20, 30 minutes. If they nasty, immediately. But that's my choice. Whereas other people's passion is to work around kids. So that's why I say you have to do, I would recommend everybody doing what you're passionate about. And they say that, I've heard, and I'm not going to quote it right, but the best job is a job that you're willing to do for free.
Yeah.
And so I do a whole lot before the sun comes up and after the sun goes down for this college. Just because that's what I want to do. And I will give blood, sweat, and tears for this college because that's what I want to do, because I enjoy doing it. But I can guarantee you I would not be making a 45-minute journey each way if I did not like
That
what I
part.
was doing.
Yes, that's right.
There's one more question.
Yes. You want to go for it?
All right. This is a big one. What gives you hope?
Knowing that I serve a true and living God who loves me beyond measure, and I find hope or get hope each morning that he allows me to have breath in my body, to know that I can make that day the best day ever if I do what I know I've been taught, trained, and bred to do.
Beautiful.
I find joy, or what gives me joy, looking at your face. Looking at your face. Looking at your face. Looking at your face. Because you are tomorrow.
Yes.
You are our leaders. And just knowing that you're here and in this space and at this college at this time asking these type questions, your wherewithal is above many of your peers. And it shows that you have compassion and you all have a desire to change the world for the better.
Yes.
That gives me hope. That gives me joy. And we need more people like you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Miss Infamous Dr. Carter on the ones and twos with the empowerment quotes all the time.
I'm gonna start calling her
So thank you
Diva.
again for sitting with all of us.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Yes, I know every time I get to
Girl,
sit
I'm
down
probably
with
have
you.
to take those boots.
You can. I see. I keep catching
them.
them.
Look at them. Exactly. I'm going to combine it with a little green, have me a little pink and green action going on, but it is what it is.
You'll see her wearing them on the next podcast.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Thank you all.
Let me make that.
That's a wrap.
Great job.